High in the snowy mountains of Snowpine Ridge, winter isn't just a season, it's a test of faith. On a desperate night, a pregnant woman stood inside a freezing abandoned cabin she bought for only 50 cents, her last 50 cents, hoping God hadn't forgotten her. Beside her, a 4-year-old German shepherd pressed close, his warm fur shielding her from the cold and from a world that had taken everything away. But when headlights cut through the trees and strangers surrounded the cabin, hunting for the silver hidden beneath the land, that loyal dog stepped forward. His growl echoed through the dark forest, telling the intruders one thing: you will not harm her, not while I'm alive. What Cooper would do next would turn a mother's desperation into a miracle, proving that God sends his angels in many forms, sometimes with paws, sharp ears, and a heart brave enough to fight for love. Before we begin, if you believe in courage, in miracles, and in the loyal pets God places in our lives, please like this video, subscribe, and share your prayers or thoughts in the comments below. A thin veil of early winter hung over the small mountain town as shadows stretched across the courthouse lawn. Emily Parker rested a protective hand on her 5-month baby bump, while her other hand gripped the worn leash of her loyal German shepherd Cooper. Emily, 29, stood just under average height, her posture slightly hunched, not from weakness, but from exhaustion carried through too many sleepless nights. Her long chestnut brown hair spilled past her shoulders in gentle waves, tousled by the cold wind, while her hazel eyes, usually bright, now dimmed with a mixture of fear and stubborn resolve. Her skin, once sun-kissed and lively, appeared pale from the strain of the past few months. Despite her fatigue, there was a quiet strength in the set of her jaw, a woman who had been bruised by life but refused to break. Cooper, the 4-year-old German shepherd standing beside her, pressed his warm fur against her leg. He had striking black and tan markings and intelligent amber eyes that followed every movement around them. Once trained as a service dog for emotional support, Cooper had become Emily's silent guardian after her divorce, always alert, always watching, always ready to comfort her when she hid tears behind closed doors. 3 months ago, Emily had been an assistant librarian in a cozy suburban town. She loved books and quiet spaces, the scent of old pages, and the gentle routine of returning to the small rented home she once shared with her ex-husband Ryan. But when Ryan's gambling debt caught up to them, the bank took the house. Her savings evaporated, paying his legal mess, and Ryan left, leaving her pregnant, alone, and nearly penniless. Now, she was at the county property auction with exactly 50 cents left to her name. Her entire future weighed less than a cup of cheap coffee. As the auctioneer's voice boomed across the steps, property after property was sold to locals or wealthy investors wearing polished leather shoes and smug expressions. Emily kept her hand on her belly, whispering to her unborn daughter inside, "Just a bit longer, sweetheart. Mum's trying." The auctioneer flipped a page. Item 26. 1-room mountain cabin, Snowpine Ridge. Severely abandoned. No electrical connection. No water system. Opening bid, $500. Silence. Even bargain hunters backed away from that nightmare listing. $200. $100. He scanned the crowd. No hands lifted. $50. His voice now carried resignation. Still nothing. Emily felt something strange stir inside her, an unexpected tug of intuition, a whisper saying, "This is the one." She stepped forward before she could talk herself out of it. "I'll give you 50 cents. Laughter burst across the crowd like an open flame catching dry grass. A man in a navy business suit snorted, clearly amused. Emily's cheeks flushed hot, but she lifted her chin. This wasn't a joke. It was survival. "Ma'am?" The purse. auctioneer said, squinting as if she might vanish on the spot. "This is a legal auction." "You have no other bidders," Emily interrupted, voice shaking but determined. "You want it off the records. I have 50 cents. That's a fair trade today." Cooper nudged her hand, as if agreeing. The auctioneer exchanged a baffled look with a county clerk, a brief whisper, a shrug. "Sold to the lady with 50 cents. The gavel fell. Her heart fluttered in panic and hope tangled together. The wealthy man smirked as he passed. "You bought yourself a pile of rotting wood," he muttered. "You'd be better off sleeping in your car." Emily swallowed hard. She didn't have gas money to sleep in her car much longer anyway. Shit. The drive to Snowpine Ridge felt endless. Cooper kept his head on her lap the whole ride, sensing her worry. They followed a hand-drawn map from the clerk since the GPS lost signal miles earlier. The road narrowed into a dirt trail winding through towering pine trees dusted with the season's first snowflakes. Finally, the cabin appeared. It leaned to one side, its wooden planks gray with age. The porch sagged like it might collapse beneath a single bootstep. The roof bore patches where daylight pierced through holes. A rusty padlock guarded the front door. Emily exhaled slowly, trying to force hope into her tone. "Well, it's ours." She let Cooper out first. The dog sniffed the air cautiously, then trotted ahead, tail low but alert. With the old iron key, Emily unlocked the padlock. The hinges shrieked in protest as the door creaked open. Musty air wrapped around them, cold, stale, forgotten. Dust coated everything, the small stone fireplace, the crooked shelves, the floorboards that moaned under Emily's weight, her heart squeezed, emptiness and possibility intertwined. "No rent, no one to kick us out," she whispered, touching her belly again. "We'll make this work." Cooper's ears suddenly perked. He lowered into a guarded stance, nose in overdrive. He let out a sharp bark, then another, each louder, more urgent, his gaze fixed toward a dark corner of the room where a small window was boarded shut. Emily froze. Someone had lived here, recently, and left fast. Emily Parker moved slowly through the dusty cabin, one hand on her belly, as if shielding her unborn daughter from the unknown. The stale air carried a faint scent of pine and old earth, mixing with the cold draft that slipped through the gaps in the walls. The fireplace stood silent, its rocks coated in ash so old it seemed like a memory of warmth rather than proof of any real fire. She swallowed, forcing herself to breathe evenly. Fear would not feed them. Fear would not keep them warm. Cooper padded ahead, nose twitching, his black and tan fur bristling slightly. The 4-year-old German shepherd was strong and muscular, yet moved with practiced caution. His ears flicked constantly, scanning for sounds Emily could not hear. Though trained as a support companion, tonight his instincts leaned into the role of guardian, a role he took personally. Emily ran her fingers along a wall shelf where dust had been wiped away recently. Underneath the dustless patch were several small markings carved into the wood, straight lines intersecting curves and small triangles arranged in patterns she couldn't immediately decipher. She leaned closer, brow furrowed, tracing one with her fingertip. The carvings felt too deliberate to be random scratches. "Someone lived here," she whispered, her voice trembling not from cold, but from the growing weight of realization. Not that long ago. Cooper's nose suddenly pressed against a loose board on the floor near the fireplace. He nudged again, then looked back at her with a low whine. Emily knelt carefully, her belly making the motion slower, and tugged. The board lifted with a tired groan, revealing a small, dark opening beneath. A crawl space. Hidden. Her heart pounded as she lowered the camp lantern into the darkness. Inside rested a weathered metal tin, corners rusted but intact. Emily exhaled shakily, drawing it out with both hands. The metal felt icy against her palms. Cooper stood rigid beside her now, muscles tight, tail stiff. Whatever this was, he sensed it mattered. Emily unlatched the tin. A soft click. The lid opened. Inside lay a worn leather journal, its cover cracked and edges softened by time. The name, Thomas Devlin, was etched in faded gold lettering. Emily froze for a heartbeat. She had heard that name while signing the deed. One clerk had muttered that the cabin used to belong to the missing Devlin fellow, a geologist who had vanished decades ago. No family, no trace. She opened the journal carefully. The first pages were filled with neat handwriting, firm strokes from someone confident in both knowledge and intention. Sketches of underground rock layers, maps of mountain ridges, symbols matching those on the shelf, notes about ore samples, mineral density, seismic readings. Then came pages of a different tone. Beneath Blackwell Ridge sleeps a fortune beyond imagination, silver so pure it could rewrite destinies, but danger lies in greed. Whoever holds this secret must defend it with their life. Do not trust those who come smiling. Emily's breath caught. Her fingertips tingled against the old paper. The thought of unimaginable wealth so close, and yet so threatening, made her chest tighten in both fear and fragile hope. Could this be the miracle she needed? Or a curse? She flipped further. The handwriting became frantic, the ink darker. I hear them outside at night. They know. They will come for it. If you find this, protect the land. Protect yourself. Emily closed the journal and hugged it against her chest, as if shielding it from the cold world trying to take everything from her. She looked down at her belly, whispering, I promised I'd do anything for you. A mineral fortune could change their lives, but she knew fortunes often came with claws. Thunk! Cooper snapped upright, ears straight forward. Snow crunched outside, heavy, deliberate footsteps circling the cabin. Emily's pulse leapt to her throat. She turned off the lantern instinctively, plunging the room into darkness except for the faint silver glow of moonlight through a crack in the roof. Cooper emitted a deep growl that vibrated through the floorboards. Emily staggered to the window, heart trembling. Through the frosty glass she saw a flash of light, headlights cutting through trees, slow and probing. A vehicle, coming closer. Her breath fogged the window as she leaned away in fear. Someone else knew this cabin, knew its secret, and they were not coming to welcome neighbors. The footsteps stopped right outside the door. Cooper positioned himself in front of Emily, teeth bared, body rigid with silent warning. The headlights froze, then turned directly toward the cabin. Emily's hand slid to her stomach as she choked on a dry gasp. Her mind spun. Is it the man from the auction? Did he follow us? Did he know Devlin's secret? Every possibility twisted fear tighter around her ribs. The doorknob rattled once, twice. Then a firm knock echoed through the room, shaking her bones. Emily clutched Cooper's fur, whispering through terror, "Please, not tonight." Cooper responded with a vicious bark that thundered through the cabin, the bark of a protector outnumbered but unafraid. And outside, the headlights stayed fixed, unblinking, watching, waiting. Emily's heart hammered so loud she feared the stranger outside might hear it through the thin cabin walls. Snow swept across the windows in whispering flurries, while Cooper stood guard at the door, every muscle taut like a drawn bow. The knock came again, sharp, authoritative, deliberate. Emily inhaled shakily, forced her trembling legs to move, and stepped toward the door with Cooper glued to her side. The hinges groaned as she cracked it open. A tall man stood beneath the pale headlights of a black SUV. He looked badly out of place in this wilderness, like a wolf in a tailored suit. His dark charcoal coat was perfectly pressed despite the snow, and his polished shoes barely held a trace of dirt. He appeared around 45, with neatly styled dark hair peppered with silver at the temples. A clean-shaven jawline suggested meticulous self-care, but his eyes, cold steel gray, held calculation behind every blink. His smile, when it came, was sharp and insincere, like a knife pretending to be a spoon. "Good evening," he said smoothly, his voice dipped in charm but lacking warmth. "I'm Raymond Harding. I represent a company with investment interests in properties around these mountains." Emily gripped the door tighter. "It's late." Harding ignored the hint. His gaze slid past her shoulder into the cabin, the fireplace, the old shelves, the newly disturbed floorboard. Something flickered in his eyes. Recognition. "You must be the new owner, Miss?" "That's none of your business," Emily replied, though her voice trembled. Cooper stepped forward, teeth bared with a deep rumble vibrating in his chest. Harding tilted his head, studying the dog. "And this must be your guardian." "Please leave," Emily said quickly. The way he assessed every detail made her skin crawl. Harding's expression didn't change, but his tone deepened, lowering the temperature of the air around them. "This cabin once belonged to Thomas Devlin," he said. "Surely you know the name. He wasn't just some hermit. He was a geologist of remarkable talent." Emily didn't respond. Harding's presence filled the doorway like a shadow stretching too far. He leaned in slightly. "There are documents here. Research notes. Geological surveys." His words sharpened with pointed precision. "I'm confident you found them." Emily's breath caught. How could he know? The journal had been hidden deep beneath the floor, untouched for decades. Cooper barked, a sudden loud snap in the silent night. Harding didn't flinch. He simply smiled in amusement, like a superior creature indulging a lesser one. "I don't expect you to understand the significance of what you now possess, miss." He waved a dismissive hand. "Whoever you are, but allow me to clarify, there are powerful interests who will pay handsomely for information, interests who don't appreciate delays." His eyes drifted to Emily's rounded belly. He noticed. "You're far from any town," he continued, voice silky soft yet edged with a threat. "Winter here can be unforgiving, especially for someone in your condition." Emily's hand instinctively shielded her stomach. Harding straightened, all false courtesy gone. "I will return, and next time I hope you'll be more cooperative." He stepped back, turned without waiting for dismissal, and walked toward his SUV. The engine roared to life, headlights slicing across the trees before the vehicle rolled away into the night. Only when the lights vanished did Emily shut the door with shaking hands. She pressed her back to the wood, gasping for air. Cooper nuzzled her palm as if to say, "I'm here. You're safe." But Emily wasn't convinced. She clutched the journal to her chest. Someone new. Someone dangerous. "What do we do now, buddy?" she whispered. Cooper nudged her again, then abruptly trotted to the rear of the cabin. He barked once, then stared back, demanding she follow. Emily grabbed a small lantern and limped after him, cautious over the uneven snow. The path led to the creek behind the cabin. The moon had risen fully now, spreading silver across the rushing water. The air smelled of wet stone and pine, but also something metallic, sharp, electric on her tongue. Cooper pawed at the creek's edge, tail flicking. Emily knelt carefully and shone the lantern over the surface. The water shimmered strangely, not just the reflection of moonlight, but streaks of bright, glinting traces swirling beneath the current, like liquid stars drifting through the stream. She dipped a finger and rubbed it against her thumb. A faint sparkle clung to her skin before dissolving. Her heart dropped into her stomach. Silver, real, pure, right beneath their feet. She looked back toward the dark woods where Harding had disappeared, a chill sliding through her veins. This cabin wasn't simply shelter, it was a treasure chest, and someone wanted the key badly enough to come knocking at night. Emily woke before dawn, her body aching from a night spent mostly awake, listening. Every distant snap of a branch or crunch of snow had sounded like Mr. Harding returning. Her heartbeat still lived too close to her throat. She sat up quietly, hand instinctively rubbing her 5-month bump beneath the oversized sweater. The tiny flutters inside her reminded her why she could not afford to collapse into fear. Cooper lifted his head from the foot of the sleeping bag, amber eyes steady and alert. He hadn't slept much either. "Good morning, brave boy," she whispered. If she remained terrified, Cooper was her anchor to courage. She set up her small chemistry testing kit, a remnant from the life she once had as a part-time science tutor. Simple supplies: a vial, test strips, and a portable reagent. She crouched near the creek as the sun rose behind the ridge, casting pale gold across the icy water. She dipped the vial, sealed it, and waited. The reaction was quick and undeniable. The test strip bloomed with silver nitrate indicators, pure silver particles, high concentration, enough to change lives, enough to draw predators like Harding here. Emily stared at the results, overwhelmed by the magnitude. Hope flickered just for a moment before dread smothered it again. If silver ran through the water, then the land itself was rich beneath the surface. "We need answers," she murmured. Cooper suddenly stiffened beside her. His ears shot upward, then he barked sharply once. He spun and dashed toward a cluster of boulders partially buried under snow. "Cooper, wait!" Emily hurried after him, legs slow and clumsy on uneven ground. But the dog was relentless, digging and pawing where the earth had been disturbed. Emily dropped to her knees and brushed away the snow. Something metallic glinted, just enough to confirm a shape beneath, a metal box, buried deep. Her pulse raced as she cleared more dirt, fingers numb. Cooper helped, claws scraping earth until the box loosened from its years-long tomb. It was heavy, rusted at the hinges, but intact. Emily dragged it into the sunlight. Her breathing quickened. "Please, let this matter. Let this help us." Cooper stood directly beside her, alert, protective, as she forced the latch open with a rock. The lid popped. Inside lay several neatly wrapped bundles. She lifted the first. Within it, folded maps, dozens of them, hand-drawn but precise. Geological strata indicated, fault lines traced, symbols marking something important. Emily recognized the initials in the corner of each page. T.D. Thomas Devlin. The second bundle revealed unfinished claim documents, paperwork that would have legally secured mineral rights for Devlin. Why had he never submitted them? Her hands trembled when she found the last item, a worn cassette tape labeled simply, "For the one who finds the truth." The cassette was old, but Emily had packed a tiny battery-powered player for late-night lullaby music, a small comfort for her baby. She hurried back inside with Cooper at her side, sealing the door behind them and insulating the cracks with her coat sleeves to keep cold and danger out. Her fingers fumbled, but finally managed to slide the cassette in and press play. Static hissed. Then a voice. Rough, tired, but steady. "If you are listening to this, it means I failed to protect what matters." Emily's breath hitched. "My name is Thomas Devlin. I discovered silver on this ridge, not just silver, silver that could supply generations, a blessing to those who honor the land, a curse if given to the wrong hands." His breathing shook slightly before continuing. Mr. Harding and his employers want this mountain gutted. They hide behind polite smiles and legal lies. They would poison streams and hollow out the heart of this forest for profit. Emily felt her hand tighten on her stomach. Cooper pressed against her leg. I left everything, maps, samples, documentation, for someone who loves this land, someone who sees its soul, not just its value. Protect it. Protect yourself. There was a long pause before his final words. Do not let Harding win. The tape clicked off. Silence flooded the cabin. Emily's heart felt heavier than stone, but a new fire sparked inside her, a mother's fire. She had nothing except Cooper, her unborn child, and now this responsibility she didn't ask for. But she would defend it all, with everything she had left. Her phone had no service, no neighbors. No police would come help a desperate pregnant woman in the mountains. But she wasn't leaving, not until she ensured the land was safe. A sound shattered the silence, tires crunching snow, engines, more than one. Cooper's ears shot forward. He snarled, deep and low, a warning from his soul. Voices barked orders from the woods, flashlights cut through the trees, beams slicing across the cabin walls. They weren't trying to hide anymore. They had come back, with numbers. Emily clutched the journal and the tape to her chest. Cooper stood in front of her, a shield with teeth. The cabin walls shook with the rising shouts outside. Emily pressed her back against the door, clutching the tin box to her chest, while Cooper snarled at the noise, his fur bristling like a storm-tossed sea. Fear threatened to pull her under, fear for the tiny heartbeat inside her, for Cooper, for the fragile dreams she had dared to entertain. But fear had taken enough from her life. No more running. She slipped her boots on, breath sharp in her chest. We're going into town, she whispered to Cooper. We'll fight this the right way. Cooper's tail thumped once against the floor, as if in approval. He would follow her anywhere, into darkness or light. They escaped through the back window, boots crunching over frost as they slipped into the forest's protective arms. Emily's lungs burned from the cold as they walked the long miles toward Pineville, the nearest town. With every step, she repeated Devlin's plea. Protect the land. Protect yourself. By the time Pineville's first roofs peaked above the trees, daylight had arrived. Emily trudged into the main street, exhausted, trembling, but determined. Pineville was a practical little mountain town with storefronts made of red brick and wood, hand-painted signs, and wreaths already decorating doorways for winter. People stared, curious about the pale, pregnant woman arriving with a determined German shepherd, but curiosity softened into concern when they saw her shaken expression. Emily's first stop was a law office tucked beside the old post station. A modest sign read, Carter and Hayes, Visa, DCC, saying. Legal services inside stood Amelia Carter, a woman in her late 40s with copper-red hair pinned into a tidy bun and sharp amber eyes magnified slightly by her rectangular glasses. She had a straight posture, a tailored navy blazer, and the aura of someone who solved problems rather than panicked about them. Her voice was calm, brisk, and carried experience shaped by years defending those without power. How can I help you? She asked. Emily explained about the cabin, the silver, Devlin's warnings, and Mr. Harding's threats. Amelia listened without interruption, her eyes narrowing only at Harding's name. When Emily finished, the lawyer rose with purpose. You did the right thing coming here, Amelia said. Harding's company has been trying to acquire land rights all over these mountains. If what you're saying is true, Devlin's documentation could change everything. Emily finally exhaled, tears pricking her eyes. I'm just trying to protect my baby." That single sentence hardened Amelia's resolve. Then let's protect both your home and your child's future. Word spread quickly in Pineville. Silver that didn't poison the land, a corporation planning to seize it, a pregnant woman and her dog standing against greed. Locals gathered, store owners, ranchers, teachers, loggers. Emily met Ruth Beaumont, a middle-aged librarian with kind blue eyes and silvery hair braided loosely over one shoulder. Calvin Wright, a gruff electrician with a thick beard and a soft heart for animals. Nancy and Owen Bryson, owners of the general store, who brought warm soup and a blanket for Emily, and many others. The town had suffered before, factories closing, forests cut down, families moving away. The possibility of sustainable mining, good jobs without destroying the land, sparked something long dormant. Hope. The community rallied, printing pamphlets, contacting state environmental offices, posting Devlin's recordings online. The first news crews arrived within days. Harding's private threats no longer worked when cameras watched his every move. The corporation tried lawsuits, bribes, and intimidation, but Emily had an army now. Cooper became a symbol, standing tall beside Emily at rallies, news clips capturing his loyal gaze as if he were saying, "Protect what matters." Children made posters of him with capes. Someone even crocheted him a scarf in Pineville's green and gold colors. Harding eventually appeared once more, jaw clenched, smile brittle, but faced with the town united behind Emily and media shining mercilessly upon him, he achieved only a stiff bow before retreating. And just like that, the wilderness belonged to its protectors again. 1 year later, sunlight filtered warmly through the newly repaired cabin windows. Pine beams gleamed with fresh varnish, and a stone chimney released a steady trail of comforting smoke into the crisp morning sky. A small sign stood proudly beside the door, Blackwell Ridge, home of the Devlin Foundation. For land, for community, forever inside, Emily rocked a soft-cheeked baby girl with bright hazel eyes and wisps of chestnut hair. The baby cooed happily, clutching Emily's finger with surprising strength. "Good morning, little Hope," Emily whispered with a smile, naming her daughter after the very thing they nearly lost. Cooper lay nearby, his black tan coat well groomed, a silver medal hanging from a ribbon around his neck, a gift from the town, for loyalty, courage, and saving lives. He watched over mother and daughter, eyes soft, tail sweeping gently across the floor. He had not left Emily's side during childbirth, howling until help arrived, and now considered Hope part of his pack. The community had begun sustainable silver extraction according to Devlin's ethical plans. Jobs returned. Streams ran clearer thanks to new filtration systems. College scholarships for local kids were funded by the foundation. Families who had once prepared to leave now built futures instead. Emily sat on the porch, Hope sleeping peacefully in her arms, Cooper resting his head on her lap. A breeze carried the scent of pine and flowing water, the soothing sound of a land no longer afraid. Emily looked across the valley and whispered, "We did it." Hope smiled in her sleep. Cooper lifted his head proudly, and the mountains stood strong. They had given everything they had, and the land had given back life. Sometimes the greatest miracles don't arrive with thunder or bright lights from the sky. They come quietly, through the loyalty of a dog, the courage of a mother, and the belief that God never abandons those who protect what is good. Emily only had 50 cents, but God turned those 50 cents into a home, a future, and a second chance wrapped in the form of a baby named Hope. That's what faith does. It multiplies what is small into more than we could ever imagine. Maybe you too are facing nights filled with fear, with uncertainty, with a feeling that everything you have is slipping away. Remember Emily, and remember that God can turn your smallest step into a miracle. He sees you, He loves you, and He is not done writing your story. If this message touched your heart, please share this story so more people can feel the warmth of hope. Comment your prayer requests. We will pray together as one family. And subscribe to the channel to join us on more journeys where God's light meets everyday life. May the Lord bless you, protect your home, guide your path, and place loyal companions like Cooper beside you on every step of your journey. God bless you. God bless your family. And may miracles continue to find you, even when you have almost nothing left to give.